parents. Do you regret the name you chose for your children? Why? I worked at Disney World a few years ago as a photographer. I was taking pictures of these two little girls with a character and they were really enjoying the experience. The parents were ready to move on and told the girls it was time to go. The oldest one, who was about 4, moved, but the youngest one, who was 2, kept playing. Finally the mom said, "Come on, Elsa." I looked down and realized she had a pin that said "Happy Birthday Elsa." I asked the mom if that was really her name. She sighed and said, "Yes, she's Elsa." This was about 6 months after Frozen came out. You can tell they never expected that name to get as wildly popular as it did. I know someone whose name is Anna, but pronounced like the Frozen character. She hates the movie, because she says that before it came out, people thought it was cool that it was pronounced that way. Now, everyone just goes "oh," like from Frozen. I worked at a school and we had a student named Anya, pronounced Anya, and everyone thought it was pronounced like Frozen's Anna. So many kids had seen Frozen that the name is almost embedded in their brain. So it took a while for everyone to start saying it correctly. I have a girl in my class named Elsa. It's a family name and her mom gets real annoyed when people assume she was named after the movie. First, the movie came out 2 years after she was born, and second, it's my grandma's name and she was a lot cooler than the movie Elsa. The kid is awesome. She's so unique and the name suits her, and in a few years it won't be as big of a deal as it is now. People amaze me with their stupidity. Elsa is an old, fairly common name. It's not like it was made up for the movie. I named one of my daughters Taylor. I got it from the movie Parenthood. She was the little girl who got in trouble for kissing boys on the playground, lol. I thought it was so cute, and unusual but not weird, and it went with our last name. 2 weeks after she was born, Garth Brooks, the biggest star in the country at the time, named his daughter Taylor. So now there are a million Taylor-named girls close to her age. My GF named her daughter Lyra, but she admitted she made a mistake once she realized it. The full version of it was Valerie, which is both male and female name in Russia, and that was the name of her stepfather, whom she hated her entire life. The male and female versions are actually different. In Russian, male is Valerij and female is Valeria. It's not a huge difference, but it might be enough to comfort your GF. I don't regret the name, but I will say we spent a lot more time debating our first kid's name. With the second we were undecided right up until the day she was born, with a fraction of the debate. If we had a third kid, there's a not insignificant chance it would just be named Baby. Turns out 71 years still isn't enough time to name your kid Adolf yet. I work with a man whose first name is Adolf. He's in his 40s, I think. Can't imagine what was going through his parents' head. He is not native to Western culture though. His parents weren't anyways, so maybe that explains it. My mom def regrets my name. She named me after her favorite aunt that had died a few years before I was born. The wound was too new and no one wanted to call me by her name. My middle name is Mackenzie after the beer dog Spuds Mackenzie. My dad got to pick that one out. He lied to her and said it was after his Irish heritage. So I get called by a name that is not on my birth certificate. Lol. I like your dad. My husband and I are having a little girl in a few months. Gonna see what his reaction is to Mackenzie too. Lol. Don't do it. The Big Mac jokes are never ending for a chubby girl. I have to say that my name had unexpected consequences. I'm 16, just beginning to receive letters from colleges and many of them create a logon for you. They take the first letter of your first name and your whole last name for your username. And every time I open a letter, these colleges are calling me cuntit. I remember a guy telling me once about having to set up an email logon for Claudia Rapolla. Like poor Megan Finger. Her username was Fingerm according to a tweet a couple of years ago lol. When I was a kid, we had a long-time mailman with your last name, or something very similar. He went by Gus, Guts Untied, Jets and Heat. I do data entry for my company, including setting up usernames. I cried laughing setting up the husband and wife usernames for A Winer and B Winer. One of my friends has a very unique name, so much so that her email is firstname@gmail.com. She is a nurse and one of her patients found her address online on syntax records and hand-delivered flowers and cookies to her house, all because her name was so unique no one else has it. She doesn't like that aspect of having a unique name. Nope. But the number of variations on the spelling on my daughter's name is a lot more than I expected. Thought I was mainstream. I don't think there really is one more mainstream than another. On a whim I gave our oldest son the middle name Rainier, pronounced like the mountain, not the French way. For a long time I wondered if I'd made a mistake, but now he is 7 and when he has to give his middle name he proudly adds, like the volcano. So that worked out well. I don't know if they do, but why the fuck did they have to spell it Lawrence? Like the name itself I'm okay with, but every standardized test throughout high school, AP tests, SAT, ACT, has more slots for letters in your last name than first name. Because of this, on every standardized test, it just cuts off at Lauren. Definitely didn't get shit about that from friends for 4 years of my life. I wanted to name our daughter River after the character in Firefly. Wife vetoed that, said no one would name their daughter that. She wanted Taylor after Taylor Swift. I vetoed that. Settled on Sienna. Later we ran into a couple with a daughter about the age of our daughter. Husband says we named her River after the character in Firefly. Cue me staring at wife. Anyway, we have a lovely daughter and she loves her name, so all good. We also liked River for the same reason. Alas, it got nixed along with Rosetta because our last name is Stone. My dad named my oldest brother, their first kid, after his dad. The same dad that kicked him out of the house at 18 and was estranged his whole life. I think my dad did it to impress to his dad. My mom hates it. When their second child was about to be born, my dad suggested the name Woody after his grandfather, Woodrow. My mom luckily changed it to a much better, more common name. My mom named us all with the same initials. Think Joseph Thomas, Jennifer Teresa, James Trevor, and Julia Taylor. She always says it was one of the biggest mistakes in her life because it made it impossible to call the right name whenever she was mad or in a hurry. I was the youngest and I don't think I ever got called the right name. To compound it matters, my dad had 9 sisters, all named with the letter A, so he had to work through all of his sisters' names, then my siblings' names before he got to me. One of my distant family members is named Amanda. She just can't catch a break. Her middle name is Lynn, so she's a Mandolin, a Mandoline. Then she married a guy named, well, I won't give her real last name away cause that's invading her privacy, so let's say it's Hold. So now she's also Amanda Hold. Amanda Hold. It amuses me every time I think about it. I don't regret giving her the name, but my daughter has told me she wanted to change it for several years during her childhood, thanks to a certain pop star who shaved her head. No, I'm just pissed about all the copycats who landed the names on all of the top 10 lists the next year. I know a girl named Claire. Her mother got a divorce and married a German whose name is Anlage. Those two names together sound like Claranlage, which literally means sewage plant. She didn't take the name though, but it was a close call. I know a guy named Sal, short for Salvador. His last name is Manila. Salmonella. Salmonella. My middle daughter's name is Dawn. My mother-in-law suggested it at the hospital. It's fine I guess, but I only agreed to it because I had just a cesarean. Hadn't thought of anything yet, and I was too tired to give a shit. Now I regret that I didn't come up with something better ahead of time. My middle name is Dawn. It's a gorgeous name, and I love it. Even though in my case I was named for my grandpa Don, who was a serial killer. Edit. No, I'm not telling you which one. His MO, his years of activity, or his count. Mostly because I don't know most of it, and to protect my family's privacy. He was an angry, cruel person that destroyed more families and lives than anyone has a right to. Or, my middle name is Dawn, and one of my favorite sentences is Dawn. I've always loved having the sunrise as part of my name. I think it's pretty. I'm American living in a different country. I gave my child a family name that wasn't top 100 in the US, since I'd grown up with a top 5 name and it sucked. Come to find out, the old-fashioned family name I picked is actually hugely common here and he will have the same experience I did. Whoops. Gonna have to name number 2 Kalal Aubergine or something. I don't regret the name we chose, which was a traditional common Irish name, but I have second-guessed it a few times over the years. Specifically, because every time we go on vacation or to an amusement park we can never find her name on a keychain or souvenir license plate, which obviously isn't a huge deal, but I feel for her. Each time it happens the only thought I have is of Bart Simpson in the Itchy and Scratchy Land episode trying and failing to find his name on a license plate while the loudspeaker calls for more bought license plates. I didn't have a say in my daughter's name. My ex and the guy she was with at the time picked the name. Long story there, but Gemma is her first name. Pretty sure she named after Sons of Anarchy TV show. 2 middle names, and originally my ex's married last name, which was her maiden name hyphenated with her first husband's name. So it was a grand total of 5 names on her original birth certificate. I have since changed my daughter's last name to mine, which cut her name down to 4. If it makes you feel any better, Gemma is one of the names for the brightest star in Corona Borealis, the Northern Crown. Alphecca, the jewel in the Northern Crown Astronomy Essentials Earth Sky webpage. It's a very pretty little constellation and not too hard to find. You could show her her very own special star. My best friend is named Jill. She is about to marry a guy whose last name is Dills. I jokingly told her she wasn't allowed to, because she can't be seriously called Jill Dills. Her response? Well, it could be worse. He has a sister named Jenna. Jenna Dills. Edit. Genitals. Obligatory, not apparent, but my parents decided they wanted 2 boys and they would be called, for argument's sake let's say, X and Y. X would be the first son and Y the second. So the first son comes out and they say, oh, he doesn't look like an X. We prefer to call him Y. That's how I got stuck with the name they deemed not good, likable enough for my older brother. Better than the other way now. If they'd stuck with the original plan and named you Y, then you know for sure that was their second choice of boy name. X wouldn't have been their first choice first if they didn't think it was good. I regret the name my parents chose for me. It was one of the most popular girl names for the 80s and most of the 90s. So no matter what, I'm always one of many. As a teenager, I worked in a fast food restaurant, and since there were 3 of us with the same name, I changed my name tag to Paige. Not because I wanted to be named Paige, it clashes with my last name, but just to quell confusion. Can't even go by my middle name either. It's my mom's name, and also popular. You'd think she would have known. I was always one of 5 Sarahs in every single class. I hated it and hated my name. I still sometimes want to change it, but I probably never will. I'm 27 now and about to start up somewhere where there are 3 other Sarahs already. Yay. I was very young when pregnant with my daughter. My mom, a teen mom herself, suggested she raise her as her own as she had just given birth to a little boy earlier that year. So I went through the state required counseling etc. and was fully prepared for this to happen. Because of this agreement, my mother named my daughter. It's a very dainty girly name, and the middle name is kinda odd. Well, cut a month before the birth and my mom changed her mind about the whole thing and said it was just an inconvenience and she wouldn't take her. Yeah, I was a little inconvenienced too now, thanks mom. So I, for some reason, probably in hopes my mom would change her mind, kept the name she chose. My mom didn't stop the disappointment there though, and we stopped talking for good at around the time of my daughter's first birthday. Her name reminds me of the unfortunate way that I came into motherhood. It reminds me of how I felt that I didn't have a choice in any of it. And it's so goddamn feminine that I worry it may be overlooked in the professional world. Wow, that is tough. I hope motherhood is okay for you now. Your mom sounds like a real prize. Your daughter is better off without her. Hang in there. Mom almost named me Boy yet, until me Uncle Cheech saved me and suggested Peak instead. To the parents of Benjamin Dover, you do not qualify for this. You knew what you were doing, and you have to own it now. I think my mom was happy on my name choice, though she was going to originally call me Jessica. I'm glad she didn't. There were already 2 of them in my grade, but I feel meh about Kelsey, so I sometimes use Jamie online instead. I only regret it because my daughter doesn't like her name. I used to be way more religious and named both my kids after their name day saints. I still like their names, but if I had it to do over I would go with something easier to spell or at least more Americanized. I named my daughter Zelda. I don't regret it at all. At first my family gave me shit for it, but it grew on them. My daughter is also called Zelda. We too were given shit about it, so we hyphenated it to Zelda Rose, but no one calls her that. Wish we didn't given and just stuck with Zelda. Jihad used to be a popular girl's name among Muslim families, until about 2001. Edit. Here's the source for my comment. It's a TED Talk on Global Jihad, TED webpage. I recommend watching the whole thing. It's really engaging. Meh. My daughter is named Capri and I get asked about Capri Pants and Capri Sun all the time. She's actually named for a Colby Calais song. We call her Pri or Papri. My son, on the other hand, his first name is Donald. It's not what he goes by, but I feel like it's about to become cumbersome. Yeah, you should start letting other people name your kids, if you have any more. Nope. My ex told me when I push a baby out of my dick I could name it. Yes, I did absolutely hate it. I'm not a parent, but I've been told a number of stories about how I got my name. We're American. My dad's name is Mark. He's Czech. My mother is really into Russian history. I was born in 1996, and we're Red Wings fans. Originally my mother wanted me to be a girl named Anastasia, but I was a boy, so my dad wanted to name me Vladimir Konstantinov, last name, after the Red Wings defenseman. My mother refused to have a baby named Vladimir, So instead she picked Alexander, which is the name of two Tsars, Alexander the Great, and an uncle of mine that she loved. For a middle name, my dad wanted his name included, so my middle name is the Czech version of Marek. So my name is Alexander Marek last name. And yeah, I probably just doxed myself. Oh well. I'm not a parent, but I named my cat Joy. It didn't suit the cat and I regretted it, so my husband and I renamed our cat Chomper, as in Chomper the baby T-Rex from the land before time. It suits our little ankle biter so well. My name is Joy. I'm kind of a grumpy bitch, so it doesn't really work for me. My oldest is trans and doesn't like her birth name. Wish I had gone with something more gender neutral. I loved her birth name and she could have used it after she came out. There is no guarantee she would have liked a different name once she transitioned. But I would have liked to try, I guess. Number. It's a classic name that isn't spelled or pronounced retarded. It sounds good with doctor or president and it's easy to yell when you're pissed off. It sounds good with doctor or president and it's easy to yell when you're pissed off. Doctor no. President no. Angrily no. My name is no. My sign is no. My number is no. Megan Trainor no.